The afternoon sun pressed down on the crowded city street, but for one woman, the world seemed strangely quiet. She crouched low beside two wheelchairs, her hands steadying her sons as they fidgeted in the shade of a storefront. The twins were only 7, identical in their fair hair and solemn blue eyes. One wore a crisp white shirt, the other navy, both in jeans that hung loose over motionless legs. Their mother, elegant blonde, dressed in a tailored navy suit, looked strong from the outside. But behind her sharp appearance hid exhaustion. She had money, influence, power, everything except the one thing she needed most, her children's health. She had taken them to the best doctors in New York, flown them across Europe for specialists, paid for treatments others could only dream of. And every time, she returned home with the same answer. There's nothing more we can do. And then, on that ordinary afternoon, a voice broke through her thoughts. Adopt me, it said, soft but certain. Adopt me, and I will heal your boys. The woman's head turned sharply. Standing only a few steps away was a girl, no older than 5. Her pink dress was wrinkled beneath a beige coat, black leggings scuffed at the knees. Her brown shoes were worn thin from too many miles. But it was her eyes that caught the woman off guard. Large, steady, and far too direct for a child her age. What did you say? The woman asked, her voice caught between disbelief and irritation. The little girl lifted her chin, pointed a tiny finger at her, and repeated slowly, Adopt me, and I will cure your sons. For a moment, the mother almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was outrageous. She had spent millions searching for hope. The greatest minds in medicine had failed her. And now a child, a stranger, promised the impossible? Sweetheart, she said carefully, trying to stay calm. You don't understand what you're saying. But the girl didn't blink. I know exactly what I'm saying. The twins, who had been quiet, turned their heads curiously. The boy in the white shirt tugged at his mother's sleeve. Mama, who is she? Just a little girl, the mother said quickly. She doesn't mean any harm. But the girl stepped closer, her voice firm. You look at them and see sickness. But I don't. I see boys who are meant to walk. The woman froze. Her throat tightened. She wanted to dismiss the child's words, but they cut deeper than they should have. Because in her darkest moments, she had whispered that same thought to herself. What if the doctors were wrong? Her voice cracked as she snapped, That's enough. Do you know how many years I've spent trying to fix this? Do you know how many nights I've cried? How dare you give them false hope? But the girl did not flinch. If I'm wrong, you lose nothing. But if I'm right, you gain everything. The mother's eyes burned. She wanted to walk away, but her sons were staring at her with something she hadn't seen in years, hope. That night, she lay awake in her penthouse bedroom, staring at the ceiling. She had negotiated billion-dollar contracts without hesitation. But the words of one little girl had shaken her more than all the medical reports stacked in her study. If I'm wrong, you lose nothing. If I'm right, you gain everything. By morning, she couldn't ignore it anymore. Against all logic, she found herself standing at the gates of a children's shelter. And there, waiting quietly on a bench, was the same girl in the same pink dress. When their eyes met, the girl stood and smiled faintly. I knew you'd come. The woman's voice shook. Don't be so sure of yourself. But the girl tilted her head. You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe me, even a little. And though the woman wanted to deny it, she couldn't. That day, she signed the papers. The girl was no longer an orphan. At first, nothing miraculous happened. But something else did. The house felt alive again. The twins laughed more. Their once quiet rooms filled with chatter and games. They leaned on their new sister as though she had always belonged. Then one evening, the mother walked past the nursery and froze. Inside, the girl knelt beside the boy in navy, her small hand resting gently on his knee. You can do it, she whispered. Just try. The boy frowned. It doesn't work. Try. The mother's breath caught. She wanted to stop them, to protect her son from disappointment. But before she could move, the boy shifted. His foot pressed faintly against the floor. His eyes widened. Mama. I felt it. Tears blurred the woman's vision. It could have been nothing, just a twitch. But the look on his face, the belief shining in his eyes, was real. A week later, his brother followed. First a tremble, then a stretch, then a halting step. Slowly, unsteadily, both boys began to walk. Their laughter filled the mansion, bursting with joy so pure it made the woman sink to her knees, sobbing. How? She whispered through tears. How did you do this? The girl only smiled softly. I didn't. They did. I just reminded them they could. The woman stared at her, overwhelmed. All the money, all the doctors, all the years of despair, and yet it was this little girl, with nothing but faith, who had sparked the impossible. Her sons stumbled toward her, unsteady but standing, their arms wrapping around her tightly. And over their shoulders, the mother's eyes met the girl's. For the first time, she didn't see a stranger making wild promises. She saw family. That night, as the city lights glittered outside the windows, the three children sat together on the couch, laughing. The twins leaned against their new sister, as if she had been part of them forever. The woman whispered to herself, her voice trembling, "I thought she was foolish, but she gave me back what the world had taken away." The girl caught her staring and smiled knowingly, as if to say, "I told you so." And in that moment, the woman understood. Miracles don't always come through doctors or medicine. Sometimes they arrive in the form of a little girl in a pink dress, standing on a sidewalk, with nothing but faith in her voice. A promise that changed everything.